Hello and welcome to today's video. Today I have decided to do something different, and instead of doing a shortened version of my streams, I want to do a quick tutorial on how to start up and set up the PMDG 777-300ER. I also want to say I will be using GSX Pro, so this is also a mini tutorial on how to use GSX Pro alongside PMDG's 777-300ER. Now, as you can see, we're currently sitting in the cockpit. By default, when you first get PMD 777 and you install it, when you enter the cockpit, it will look like this. It will already be partially set up. You'll have the APU running, for example. You will not have ground power unit in the beginning, but everything will basically be set up for you to basically just quickly start up the engines, load in your flight plan, and fly. Now, I know a lot of people do not like that and would prefer to start from cold and dark. So the very first thing I want to show everyone is how to do that. So if we go down here, you will see your FMC. You can move around by holding Shift and then WASD to move like this, E and Q to move up and down, and obviously right click to look around. But you don't need to hold Shift for that. So we're going to hold Shift and Q to move down, and we'll move over here to look over here. Now in the beginning of every flight, you will have this menu. Now you can always access this menu in case you have left it by clicking menu. So in case I click on a button, like on FMC, and I want to see that menu again, you can always just press menu. It'll bring you back here. Now, these two buttons are very important in the beginning. First we'll go to PMDG setup. You'll see these four options now. About is not very important. In the aircraft option, we can get failures, so you can choose for something to fail, such as the APU in midair or an engine. Just for further notice, you can always use next page to move through the pages. The Airbus will have an arrow, Boeing has next page. Displays, it's usually for units, so here we can change from degrees Celsius and kgs to pounds. I prefer the European standard, which is Celsius and kgs. Equipment wise, this is just basically more in preferences that you would personally want. I personally have this. So for example, if I click on here, you'll see there will be no flight, like the little iPad. Obviously we want that if we want to do an actual flight. We'll go return. Then we want to go back to setup. Options, again, same, more like performance. I usually keep this all at default. Don't really change anything. Now here is where this is important in changing your startup state. You can click on here, and you can then choose how you want your plane to look when you first spawn in. So personally, I keep it on apron, GSX. So this is what I am right now. It's already basically startup for you. For today's tutorial, however, we'll be doing cold and dark GPU. So if you click on here and click execute, it will now be like that. State load, cold and dark GPU, execute, loading panel state. That will set the current state of the plane to that. So you can see we've just been turned off. We do have the GPU since we chose that. So to start up, we'll first click on both of these primary and secondary external power. Everything else you can leave alone. Second thing you want to turn on is the electrical battery and passenger seat and cabin utility. Next, you want to turn on your ID route and your voice recorder. And your voice recorder. Over here, you just want to click this so it's armed. On the window heat, you want to click all four of them on. And after that, you really don't want to click anything. Passenger seatbelt is a typical thing to have on in the beginning, but we don't because we still haven't fueled, and it would be a hazard for the seatbelts to be on whilst the plane is being refueled. So since it hasn't yet been refueled, we'll have this on off. Also, I would suggest not using auto, as auto usually mistakes you being on cruising altitude when you're not, and it'll turn on even though you're only at 5,000 feet. So I would definitely recommend you having this off or on, not on auto. Next thing you want to turn is storm lights. The next very important thing is the master bright. Now, when you click this button, this will do absolutely nothing. When you click on this, this will let you basically change the lighting level in the cockpit. Obviously, since day it's not very noticeable. Typically, when it's day, I will keep this normal. When it's day, I'll push it all the way to the left, to the right. Sorry. Also, just want to do a little warning. If I do make any mistakes during this video, feel free to comment the mistake I did, and I'll properly address it, as obviously no one's perfect at knowing everything, and I might make a couple of mistakes in this tutorial setup. You want to have your beacon on. Logo and wing lights are only really necessarily doing the night flights when you want to see a logo. Apart in the day, everyone already sees the logo because it's already day, it's already bright. These ones you want to keep off for now. Taxi lights will only turn on after pushback has been completed, and same with strobe. Runway turn off will be only on after you land. Landing lights will obviously only come on when you're landing. Now, we basically set up everything that we want to do over here on the top for now. The next thing we really want to pay attention is the screens will do some self-testing for a little while. What we really do want to focus on is over here. This is our tablet, and I'll explain everything that's on here. Ground operations will give you ground options. In this case, if you're not using GSX, you would use this for all ground services, apart from fuel, obviously. So for example, ground power, we already have it, so it's going to be click on release. When you do not want ground power anymore, you will click release. Chalks are very important. To use any of these functions, you will need to have chalks set. Then, if we go, you can also set for vehicles. I typically don't use any of this. If you're using GSX, this is for all the doors. Ground maintenance, also, you will really need to use this in case you're doing something realistic and there's some issue. And automated ground ops, I heard it's useful, but I personally do not use it. Then we have weight and balance, which we don't need. We can import it, but we don't have a plan yet imported, so we don't need it, and typically I don't use this. Manuals, you can use this if you want. I typically don't need checklists or manuals. Performance tool is going to be very important, but not for now. What we first need is the electronic flight bag. When you click on this, you will see this. What you will first want to do is go down over to here, this little bar, and you'll want to enter your SimBrief username, which is located in your SimBrief account page. Rest of the things you can enter. So for example, I use say intentions for AI ATC, so I'll have this obviously set to say intentions instead of Hoppy. Weather source, you can set it as well. Basically, this is all personal preference, but the base thing you want is your SimBrief username. Apart from that, it's fine, and then you gotta make sure to click Save Preferences. If you have Navigraph Hub installed, you do not need to do this. Just make sure everything is installed and updated. If you do not, make sure to have this obviously installed. I already have this installed, so this will take some time for it to check. This is navigation traps. This is only if you have Navigraph. If you don't have Navigraph, you can ignore this part. You can't even use it. You need to have this description to use. Then we come back to the home page. Here, you will click Request Data from SimBrief. That is if you have a flight plan. If you don't, you can click on Tap, and you can have your flight plan here. And you can create the flight plan, sorry. Once you have your flight plan loaded, so make sure it is all the way. Obviously, I'm doing a short flight only to Kuwait, so it's not going to be a long route. But for example, if you're flying from the Emirates to the US, you can click here to unlock, by the way. It'll probably be a long route, so it'll take some time to load. Just make sure it loads properly before you do anything. Over here, there's nothing we really need to do. Obviously, you can click on the weather if you have this already loaded in. Simple, I prefer. And that will give you all the data, or you can use METAR, obviously. Once we have everything loaded in here, we can now prioritize our attention over to here. On GSX, what I would preferably recommend is you immediately do request catering service, request refueling, and request boarding. Apart from that, you don't need to do anything for now. If you do not have GSX, don't worry, you don't have to worry about any of this. Everything will be handled here in the FMC. So the first thing you want to click on is FMC, obviously, after you've done your initial setup, which again, I would recommend just leaving everything default, except for the startup state you want. You can ignore everything over here, and you can immediately go to pause init. What you then want to do is get your last position and compare it with your GPS position. If they match up, click on here to copy it and enter into your set initial position, and you'll see this will be set up. If these do not match up, please wait. The ADRU is still taking some time to set its initial position, but once these do match up, then you can just enter into here and it'll obviously all be set up. Please ignore all the button sounds in the background. That's GSX doing something. Next thing you want to do is go to route. over here we will see this. We want to immediately click on route request. We'll find our flight plan. We'll go SimBrief RT. Now, over here, if you're non-GSX, you will just press both of these. Obviously in GSX, you need to listen to this. So this is only for GSX right now. You will have to wait until they tell you you're ready to load fuel, and you'll click both of these. You can immediately press set payload whether you are using GSX or not. That's basically passengers and cargo and whatnot. Now, we'll wait over to GSX. We'll go over to here, ground operations, and it will say things it wants. So let's just wait. We'll see what it says, since I missed it the first time. It would seem like they did that automatically, so some doors will close and open automatically since GSX will instruct it. Sometimes it won't. We can see passenger boarding started. If you are using GSX and you have the airport profile downloaded, you will have one of these called Easy Parks. It will tell you all the information. It will tell you cargo, tell you fuel. It can also tell you how many passengers, like here. And once it starts loading stuff, it will actually tell you what percentage is done. And also just some other useful information, which I really like. So if we give it a little while, it can tell you our estimated time of departure, 19 minutes till departure. You can ignore all of this down here, that doesn't really matter. So this will automatically cycle. We can see our departure, which we'll use later on. I don't think they have started loading in the luggage and cargo, so I don't think we'll see the percentage just yet. But we can see the number of passengers. So you see, when you see this, you can then click Set Fuel. If you're non-GSX, you can immediately just press these two, as I said before. And if you are GSX, now you will see the fuel is actually going to be started to load it. Obviously, it's 0 kilograms for now, but after a little while, it will load. You will know when it's done when it'll show the bill, which I'll obviously show later on. Now, after you press both of these, and it says SimBrief imported, you'll click Select RTE. You will see this. You will see, first of all, route requesting. If it says requesting, you have to wait. If you have a long flight plan, this may take much longer. If you have a short one, it will obviously take less time for this to take. So you see route request sent. Now we just wait. So this is how in the Airbus you will do init request. And you can see all this is ready and uplinked. So just click clear to go by all these messages. And we'll do load. Don't think I click. I will click on load. Loading. Click close this. We'll just wait a little while. And if you are GSX, you will see how many passengers are loaded here and how much fuel is loaded here. And then after some time, you will see activate. So we need to click on activate. Ignore RT2. Click on activate and click execute. Whenever this white button is shown, make sure to click execute. Now, you're done with the route. What we'll now do is go to dep and approach. So departure and approach. We'll click on here. It'll automatically be your departing airport selected. And we'll have a look. If you are GSX, you can have a look. If you're not here, if you're not GSX and don't have this, you can always have a look over here at your route. So we're 30 right here. It also says here 30 right. So we'll go over down here and select 30 right. You can ignore the execute button for now. And our departure will be, let's have a quick look. Okay, they don't want to show me. Will be Rita to Foxtrot. So we'll go over here. It's not here, so we'll click next page. There it is, Rita to Foxtrot. Now we'll see the SID is here and the runway is here. If you have a trans, obviously you'll enter here and click on it. Now you can click on and execute, and you can see it's activated. So now we'll go to index. Over here, if you want, you can set up an approach. Usually I typically like to set this up only during cruising altitude, but approach is the same. You select your runway. So in this case, our approach runway is runway 34. It'll also be ILS. So we'll go down over here. Okay. Seems like SimBrief has done the same issue and selected runway 34, which I don't believe exists. So just imagine that this exists, and let's just take runway free right for now. And let's just say we'll have depth free Charlie approach. We'll just click on it. You'll see again, sell and sell. If you have a challenge, you'll obviously click on it. We don't. And you click execute, and you'll see activated and activated. Next thing you want to click on is init ref. And actually, once you see this, when you load in your arrivals, you'll actually see this setup. You can click on here, this CTR button, to make yourself be in the center. And you can use this little scroll wheel to set the distance that you can see on your display. So we'll just click on here because I typically like it to be on the bottom. You'll see GSX will constantly update you. So we'll say close right entry 5. So we'll do that, close right entry 5, because catering has been finished. There we go, closing. Now you'll see your perf init, which is when you click on init ref. You'll want to click on this button, ZFW, Zulu Foxtrot Whiskey. You'll click on it, and there'll be a number. You click there, and you'll see this will also be inputted, and you'll click accept. And that's it. We'll then go to index, and we'll go to takeoff. Now here's where it gets really important. Close right entry 5. I have done that. Sometimes GSX will glitch. You will want to now go to your performance tool. You'll go to takeoff. You will want to select your runway first. You'll click, in our case it's 30 right. You'll click import from OFP. Aircraft, you'll click import from aircraft. Weather, you'll click import weather. After everything is filled in here, you'll click on calculate. First thing we'll see is flaps 5. So we'll come over here, we'll click on 5 and set that in here. So we'll see 5. Next thing you want to do is find your CG. So our CG is over here, 29.22. So we'll go 29.22. Now, you'll need to ignore all of this for now, and you'll want to click on thrust lim, also known as thrust limiters. We'll want to come down over here, and we will see RTG TO. So in this case, it's just TO. We don't have to do anything here. Now, if you might see TO1 or TO2, and over here you will see like takeoff 1 or takeoff 2. You'll simply click on that, whether on which one is given. So if it's TO2, you'll click on TO2 over here, and that's it. Then you will want to go. You want to stay on this page. You'll see SEL, your cell. We'll have a look over here. You will find your cell temp, 64 Celsius. 64. Now it's very important if in your setup you have selected Fahrenheit, you will come over here and you'll click on here, and now we'll change it to Fahrenheit. Also might mess up your flight plan. With that finished, we'll click on takeoff. Next very important thing is tog W. So we'll come over here and find your weight. Obviously I'm using kgs, so I will convert to kgs, and it'll be 230.1. So 230.1. You can also round it. I would suggest rounding it down. So if it's 230.190, for example, I would still recommend it rounding it down to 230.1. Whilst we're here, we'll find our QNHs. I preferably use hectopascals. So we'll come over here and we'll click here. So it turns to HPA. Our QNH is 1017. Looking down here, we see 1013. And we'll click on, not on standard. We'll turn it until we match our QNH. So in my case, it's 1017. You can see 1017. This one thing about Boeing that's nice is that whatever you click on the left or on the right, it will sync to the right or the left. Unlike Airbus, which is separate. So if I set this to 1017, this will stay at the default 1013 unless the co-pilot changes theirs as well. You can see as well here, when I flick this, it also changes that, which is very convenient in my opinion. Over here, there's nothing more important. You want to verify your V1, VR, and V2. So in our case, it has auto-calculated V1 to be 149, which is fine. It is close enough. Now you want to take your reference V2, which is 160, and enter here 160. Our heading, we want to set to the runway heading. Careful not to select cell or change this. Just scroll until you find your value. There we go. And your altitude, me personally, I like to set it to initial 6,000. Obviously, I sometimes use AI ATC, so they do it for me. They tell me my initial altitude. But when I'm not using ATC, I will keep it at 6,000. Then we want to turn on both flight directors. We want to turn on LNAV and VNAV. Everything else here is not important. Make sure your autopilot disengage bar is up, not down, and both of these are armed, so up. Then we want to turn off VHF 1 and have this on TARA. You will want to set, one thing I forgot is set your parking brake, which is by default not set. When that is done, we can, the only thing we can now do is actually wait. In case there's a discontinuity in your flight plan, you can click on next page. Everything seems fair. Here, fine here. We'll click on RTE. And everything seems fine here. So I suggest you just stick on init breath, which is this page. We'll have a look at our progress with GSX. All passengers are loaded. Catering is fine. Refueling is completed. Since the refueling is now completed, we can come over here, turn on the seatbelt signs, and set APU to on, and then start. It'll auto flick back to on. You want to go to auto brake, go RTO. It should flick back. If it doesn't, don't worry, it'll flick back sometime later. Make sure, verify your joystick is working. In my case, I have been stupid and forgot to plug it in. So plugging it in, I can now test. Oh, I don't know what happened to throttle. We can just test that our joystick works. Once the APU does turn on, you will see somewhere here APU running. We can actually go over to fuel, and we'll actually see, even though this engine, okay, this is on at the moment because it auto turned on, you'll see it's on going to the APU. So just wait a little while. Passengers boarded. I'm assuming cargo is not yet done. So if we look over here, yeah, baggage loading 50%. So I'll quickly cut to the part where it reaches 100%. One thing I do want to notice, apart from here having a look here and seeing APU running as confirmation that the APU is running, you will also see that your secondary power, if it is on and you chose to be on, will change to available, not on. That's one way to confirm that the APU is running, or you can have a look here that APU is running. One thing you also want to check is you want to click on here. This will go to the second page of errors. Just make sure that there's no other errors. It is normal for this to be shown in the beginning and also for this to be shown. Now, if your auto brake is stuck at RTO and it has not flicked back to off, you can just flick it to off. We'll have a look here now. Our cargo. You can have a look here for cargo, or you can alternately click on GSX. Actually, no, that does not work. Or it will show you up here. Whilst we're waiting now, we can set our flaps to takeoff position. In my case, it is 5. We want to make sure this is all closed. This is on cutoff for now. This is like this. Basically, your setup looks like this down here. You can set your distance here as well now. I suggest 20 for takeoff and later on to 80 once after takeoff. You can also confirm your flight plan, by clicking on plan, changing to legs, and clicking step. This will move through the flight plan, and you can just confirm there's no discontinuities. If there is, we'll always show you down here, but you never know. Maybe you just want to check your flight plan, or you want to see how your departure will look. Arrival. So we can actually have a look over here. Keep going. You'll see this is how our arrival will look, which is quite nice and easy and straightforward. So we can switch back to map. you'll probably not need to use app or vor, nor do you need to touch any of this. I personally have terrain and WXR turned on, which I don't believe is functional on PMDG's 777. Just for caution, if you're clicking your LNAV and VNAV and they're not turning on, make sure you have both flight directors on. Sometimes when you have both one off and one on, it will sometimes not turn on still. So make sure you have both on, and make sure you actually have them on, since sometimes people complain that it's not turning on and they don't have flight directors on. Flight director is your magenta cross right here, which will show you where you need to keep this or where the autopilot needs to keep itself pointed towards. So we'll have a look quickly at GSX. Passengers have been boarded, obviously as before. So we're currently only waiting for our cargo to be loaded. Sometimes it will show you here the percentage of cargo done, or a message will pop up here. Sometimes, however, this will not show you how much cargo is loaded in. On PMDG, if you want a sun visor, you can click this. This will put up a sun visor, and you can drag it like this. You can also open the window by clicking this, and then clicking on this. I will not open it since it's quite noisy outside currently because of all the other planes. You obviously cannot open this mid-air. You can see boarding has been completed. So we'll go over to GSX now, and we'll click. We'll make sure that the jetway is still attached. If it is, we'll click on Operate Jetway, and we'll click Release Ground Power since we are connected already with the APU. Sorry, the APU is already running. We'll go to Ground Operations. We'll click on Close. All of the entries will close. You can actually click here, Close All. We do not want any of them open at the moment, obviously. Once all are closed, we can click on Arm All. Obviously, it's not a requirement, but preferably you should do it in case of an emergency. We'll then go over to GSX and click Prepare for Pushback and Departure. Obviously, if you don't have GSX, you might have a different pushback tool. I don't believe PMDG has a pushback by default, so I would definitely recommend you use a pushback toolbar such as here. Me personally, I use GSX, obviously. So wait, I think they told me to set parking brake. We'll click Edit Pushback on Map, which is my preference. And obviously we need to be facing the runway, so we'll drag it like this and change it. As you can see, here is your green line, which is how it turned. Obviously we want to follow standard procedure for the pushback, so we'll click on this to create a waypoint. So I actually click 2. Click like that. And we'll make a second waypoint just like this. Okay, I actually created a third waypoint. Okay, we'll do clear route since I kind of messed it up. Click on the plane. Okay. Go. And then we'll click Save Route. So you're waiting for action, remove wheel chocks. We'll go to ground operations, remove chocks. We'll release our parking brake. To start at will, that means we can start up the engines. So what we'll go ahead now is we'll click on all of these. We'll then click auto on this and auto on this. And then we'll set auto for the rest. We'll then turn on all 4 of these pumps. Now, you want to make sure and go ahead and see if you have fuel in the center. In my situation, I have 0 fuel in the center, so I will keep both these engines off. But if you do have any fuel in the center, make sure to have both of these on. In my case, I don't need them. Cross feed you will not need unless there's some weird fuel issue on your plane. Then you click, make sure auto start is on, and you'll click turn this to start, and turn this, toggle this to run. We'll hear the engine starting, and over here, ignore this engine start anthem by the way, you'll see this red line. Once this white line goes over to the red line, this will automatically turn back to norm. And once this turns back to norm, you're clear to set this engine 1 to start, or your left engine to start, and set this to run. Make sure you never set this to cut off, and always keep this at norm after it's been started up. You can see our pushback has completed. Actually not, we're still moving back a little bit. You can see our engine almost is at that red line, and it's been set to norm automatically. So we'll set this to start and set this to run. And engine 1 will start up. So our parking brakes. If you are using HOTAS for the flight, same as I am, the parking brake may be a little weird, and to actually set the parking brakes, you have to click once and twice for it to actually be considered as set. It's a weird little thing, don't know why that happens, but it just is. So once this is set to norm, we can then turn the APU off. There you go, it sets off. Let's wait for this to not be off. We'll also tell GSX we've had a good engine start. We can see bleed air. We have to wait for this to be on. So no off on both of these. And we'll go over here and click APU off, since we don't need it anymore. Keep voice recorder then on. Forgot about that. If you're not using GSX and the pushback's been disconnected, you can go ahead straight for taxiing. If it hasn't, like for me, since I'm using GSX, we'll have to wait. These are still unlocking gear. We'll see the tug is now going away, and there'll be a person holding a red ribbon, which is the bypass pin. And I'll tell you the instance where you can actually disengage your parking brake and you can start taxiing. Now, if you have Navigraph, you can click up here, obviously, for your charts. But I actually prefer more to use the built-in PMDG Navigraph display. I'll go to my electronic flight plan, and then you can click on here. I think this might actually be on here to switch to Navigraph map. You'll see Navigraph map. You can zoom in. I am taking off from runway 30 right, so I have to taxi straight through Mike, and then I'll pick one of these to turn. I will, as you can see, he just showed me the bypass pin. He just put his hand down, obviously, but he's showing me the pin. At this, when it says have a good trip, you can actually then disengage your parking brake. So we'll turn on taxi and strobe. We'll then disengage our parking brake and put in some power. I'll fast forward this bit until I'm on the runway, so I can show you how to take off. As you can see, I'm now lined up on the runway, ready for departure. Now there are some things we do need to go over just before departure, just to confirm. First, we need to make sure that our flaps are set to our takeoff configuration. Our cabin is ready. It does say that before. If you hear a little ding, that is the cabin saying it's ready. Taxi and strobe lights on. These only on if you need it. Seatbelt signs on. Both flight directors on with LNAV and VNAV on. Your reference V2 speed set in here, and your initial altitude here. AP autopilot disengage bar must be up, not down. And auto brake on off. Once you're ready, you can disengage your brakes and set your throttle. I would recommend first halfway and then full. You want to monitor your speed down here until you reach your V1. In my case, it's 149 knots. That's 149. I'll slowly pull up to avoid a tail strike, and I'll put landing gear up. I'll then meet the dot with a cross and click autopilot. Autothrottle will be automatically armed, and you'll see it will automatically do this, and your yoke will automatically move. Now have a look at these two numbers. You'll see 5 and 1. 5 meaning if you're above that, you can bring the flaps above, and now I'm above 1, so I can bring my speed to up. Nope. We'll turn off our taxi lights and strobe lights. You can see our overspeed goes out of the way because our flaps are fully up. Speed becomes managed. As you can see, it's dark. If you do want to manually set it, you can click on the scroll wheel and we'll let you change it. But I personally prefer to keep on managed apart from descent. You can see here our ascent, so we're currently ascending. If this white bar is up, that means you're ascending. If it's around here, you're staying stable. If it's going down, you're descending. This green line here shows the approximate estimate until you will reach your desired set altitude. Now don't worry, it will not follow your heading unless you click this button, which definitely don't, unless ADC gives you further instructions. Here you can see we actually have some traffic on our right, but we can ignore that. Now that we reached our initial altitude, we're going to have a look at our cruise altitude, which is flight level 340, and we will scroll until we have entered our flight level. 340. Yours might be different, and then I typically like to click on this, which you have to click if you want to ascend or descend. You'll see the white bar goes up to show how much we are ascending. And then since we're performing a turn, you'll see this white curved line showing our current direction, which obviously is perfect since we're turning to this direction. And we're following this as our yoke is following this. At a certain altitude, we'll have an orange box around it, I believe. I believe it's orange. I'm not saying that it won't happen, but it will definitely happen. I think around 9,000 feet. Still climbing. Again, if we zoom out, next you see that we are expected to reach flight level 340 around this point. Don't be scared if it moves. It might be because your plane is turning, decreasing, or increasing. Like in this example, we're increasing speed, so descent is going to slow down a little bit. You can see our green bar is just moving a little back. Don't be scared if this yoke is moving or your throttle is moving. That is the autopilot managing. So this in this case is auto throttle, and this in this case is autopilot. I can see this green arrow shows whether your speed is increasing or decreasing and how much it is increasing or decreasing. You can see as we reach our desired speed, our acceleration will decrease as the green arrow decreases. And now that we've reached our desired speed, you can see the arrow has gone, since we're not increasing speed or decreasing speed. You can see we have started our ascent again at a fast pace. As you can see, the green arrows, the green line is moving back as we're ascending a little faster. Ignore that sound, that's completely normal. As you can see, green, orange font and orange box. You then click on standard, STD, which sets your QNH to standard on both sides, as you can see. When you begin your descent at a certain altitude again, this will become orange, and that will mean that you have to click again to set your QNH. Now, one nifty thing is that whilst you're in standard, you can still change your QNH, so that when you click off, it will be that desired QNH. Now, if we have a look at our flight plan, we can see how it is basically smooth on, and we're going to send here, and it's straight until our cruise. So we'll just go back to 80, which is what I prefer, and we'll turn off the seatbelt since it's currently smooth. And there you have it. This is how you set up, start up, take off, and climb on PMDG's 777-300ER. I hope you found this video helpful. Please make sure to like and subscribe, or comment if I made any mistakes in this tutorial that I can fix. But anyways, please have safe and amazing flights. That is all from me.